and welcome back for episode number 118 of the weekly playback. Sorry about the fur that's always flying everywhere. But anyway, so I have played a couple of new to me games, which I'm excited to talk about. And I have quite a bit of new arrivals to show you. And today my ring light is working, so yay. Okay, so anyway, so let's just get into the games that I played. Oh, I do want to say one thing. I noticed that when I edit my videos, I see myself like scratching myself a lot. So as you guys know, I feed stray cats and I get bitten by a ton of bugs. So I have so many bug bites as a result of me feeding these stray cats. So if you see me scratching myself, that's why. So yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing, but it's just part of the job. It just comes with the territory of feeding stray cats. So anyway, yeah, so let's just get started. So let's talk about Mezen. So Mezen is a 2023 game for 1 to 5 players. It is designed by, Nikita Sorokin, and the art is done by Maria Stankovic, and it's published by Hobby World and Arcane Wonders. This is a copy that I paid for myself. So a friend of mine generously offered to pick up games for me from Gen Con, and this was one of my Gen Con purchases. So yeah, so I played a 3-player game of this. So this is so it says it's a connections game, end game bonuses, grid coverage, and pattern building. So yeah, it's pretty much an abstract game. So I did also purchase the playmats. So yeah, so the playmats look like this because you are going to have a 5x5 grid of tiles in your own color. And this will keep track of the rounds. You're going to have cards here, and I'll post up a picture and I'll show you some examples of cards, and you're also going to keep track of your score based on this central board. So each player is going to take 25 tiles in their own shape. So there are various shapes. I'll just show you a couple of the different shapes. So here is a circle, and you'll have different animals on each of your 25 tiles. Here is like a flower kind of shape, I guess maybe a clover. This, I have no idea what you would even call this shape, and that is a bird. Then you have a hexagon, and finally a square shape. So each person is going to take tiles in their own shape. This is the active player marker. And then you're going to have a bunch of these tokens, these amulets. So they're just squares with different little symbols on them. And then each person will have a score marker in their own shape. These are wooden, and then just a little cardboard tile for the extra 50 points or 100 points if you exceed those. And then here are a bunch of different goal cards, and you'll be selecting a certain number of goal cards based on the type. So for example, when we started the game, I picked the moon symbol, the crescent moon, and then I had to find all of these cards that had a crescent moon on them. So for example, like this one. And then we shuffled all the cards that had a crescent moon on them, and then selected, I believe it was 10 to put around the board, and that kept track of the rounds. So you're going to have 5 cards on each side of the board as indicated in this setup. So each person is going to put down their tiles light side up because there is a dark side to the tiles as well. So yeah, so you'll shuffle your tiles and then randomly arrange them into a 5x5 grid, and this is your painting. So the game is going to take place over 10 rounds, and the active player is always going to have this in front of them. So you in each round are going to have 2 cards, goal cards, visible around the board. So that will tell you what you're scoring for the current round and what you will be scoring for the next upcoming round. So in any given round, you are going to have 2 of these cards visible, except of course the very last round where you'll only have 1 card visible, which is going to be the current round. So you are always going to, except for the last round, have 2 of these visible, so you know what you're scoring in the current round and what you can prepare for in the next round. So the active player is going to decide which animal they want to activate in that round. So again, there are different kinds of animals on these tiles. So there's like a horse, for example, there is a fox, there is a fish, there is a hedgehog, there is a peacock, and I think that those are all the animals. And then on the back side of the tiles, some of them will have a tree visible. So let me just show you an example of a tree. It just so happens that all of the ones I'm looking at don't have a tree on them. Here we go. So you might see a tree on your tile as well, which will kind of count as a wild, and I'll explain how you use the tree when I get to the explanation. So the active player is going to decide which symbol they want to activate that round. So what that means is you are going to find a grouping of those of that symbol that the active player decides they want to activate. So let's suppose I have in my 5x5 grid, I have like say a group, excuse me, a group of 5 foxes orthogonally adjacent to each other. So, you know, one connected group of foxes, and I decide I want to activate foxes. So I'm going to then remove all of the foxes from my painting, put them to the side, shift everything down, and then flip over all the foxes and then decide how I want to place them back into my painting. So that is what you do on every turn. Now, the other players can also do that with their foxes, or they can give me an amulet of theirs, and we each start the game with 5 amulets, and then they could decide to do a different animal if they want to. Additionally, amulets can be used in order to place it on another tile to increase your grouping. So like, let's suppose I had 3 foxes and then a gap of some other kind of animal and then another fox. I could put the amulet on that other animal and then pretend it's a fox, and then, you know, have a group now of 5 foxes. Of course, that amulet would get discarded after you do that. So this is what you're basically doing throughout the entire game in order to meet these goal cards. So the goal cards will show you different things that you will score for in each round. So for example, in this round, you would want the peacock in the very center, well, not in the center, sorry. This means that you would want a peacock that has no other peacocks around it. So for each peacock that has no other peacocks around it, including diagonally, you would score 2 points. So at the end of that specific turn, like let's suppose I had 3 peacocks that had no other peacocks around it, I would score a total of 6 points. Alternatively, instead of scoring points, you can always just take 2 amulets from the center pool if you don't want to score a certain card. So again, there are different types of cards that will score throughout the game. Like here is another example. So in this example, you want to have fish in the center of your painting, and for each fish in that position at the end of that turn, at the end of that round, you would score 2 points. So, and here's another example. So this is for each adjacent pairing of fox and fish, you would get 2 points, and each animal can be counted in only 1 pair. So again, you're going to have these cards around the scoreboard, and you will always see what you're currently scoring and then what's coming up in the next round. And they will be placed where you see these sorry, let me tilt it a little bit, where you see these arrows. So at the top of the board, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then at the bottom, where in this case there's a circle, and I'll explain why, and then at the bottom again, and at the bottom you're going to see an empty circle which indicates white. So in those particular rounds where you see the circles, you're also going to score 1 point for each tile that is either black or white, depending on which round you're in. So those are only special circumstances in rounds 5 and the last round. So this is how you continue the game. And again, you can give an amulet to the person if you want to change which animal you'll be flipping over and sliding down. So yeah, so basically it's just from round to round, you're just trying to score points and also hopefully position yourself in such a way that you'll be able to score points in the next round. And that's why it's helpful to see what's coming up in the next round. So yeah, it's just a fun little abstract puzzly game. Like, you know, it does involve a fair bit of thinking if you want to score a lot of points, because you might, you know, be focusing on the current round as well as strategizing for what you can do in order to prepare yourself for the next round. Like for example, there was one instance where I knew, okay, that in the subsequent round I can score a crap ton of points, so I'm gonna forego points in the current round and focus on setting myself up for the next round. And I did that, and I won this game. So let me just tell you the points so you can get an idea of the points that you might score. So I played a 3-player game of this. I scored 102 points, and the other players scored 87 and 84 points. So yeah, so really nice abstract strategy game that, you know, you might enjoy. Just it's a quick kind of game. The rules aren't super complex. So let's just talk about the end game, because there is also end game scoring. So at the end of the game, you're also going to score 1 point for every tile on the painting that has the light side facing up. So again, that's because on the board, you'll see this circle at the end of the 10th round, which you'll score for that. You also will score 1 point for every remaining amulet you have. You'll score 1 point for every tile in a chosen group on the painting, including spruce tiles. So you will get to decide which animal or spruces, so spruces will count within that animal grouping. So which animal you want to score. So you will look at and see which grouping is your largest grouping of animals, and then score 1 point for each animal and spruce tile that is within that group, and then whoever has the most points will win. It says in case of a tie, the player who has the most remaining amulets will win. So yeah, so I really enjoy this game. It was the aesthetic of this game that really attracted me to it. So I don't know what Mezen is. I don't know where Mezen is, but it says in the far north in the land of dark days and white nights flows the river Mezen. From meadows and forest edges, horses gallop towards it, birds flock to it, foxes run to it, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know if Mezen is a real place or not, but this game very much reminded me of like Nordic artwork and Nordic mythology and stuff like that. So that's why I was really attracted to it, the artwork and just the aesthetic of it. Like there's only 3 colors in this entire game, which are red, white, and black. So very aesthetically pleasing and striking. So yeah, so I, really wanted this game as a result of what I had read about it and heard about it. And yeah, I am pleased with it. So it's a nice little abstract strategy game that, I think I could teach to my family pretty easily as well. So for now, this will definitely be staying in my collection. So again, this was a Gen Con purchase of mine that a friend was able to pick up for me since I was not able to make Gen Con. Yeah, and I did purchase the playmats, which have an all solid red back, which I think would be also cool to place down your tiles on. Like if you don't want to use the squares that are pre-printed, it would also be really cool to place the tiles on this. I think it would look really nice and striking. So yeah, so that was Mezen. So again, not a review copy, and if it's something that, sounds interesting to you, then maybe check it out. So let's move on. So another game I played recently is Gnome Hollow. So Gnome Hollow is a 2024 game for 2 to 4 players, designed by Ammon Anderson, and the art is done by Ammon Anderson and Patrick Spaziante. And it's published by Levity Games and The Op. And this is a Gen Con purchase of mine. I did not attend Gen Con, but a friend kindly agreed to pick this up for me, and of course I paid for it. So this is not a review copy. And I did get the all-in deluxe version of this with all of the deluxe components. However, when I played this the other night, we played with a friend's copy, so in the photos you will not see all of the deluxe components, but you will see the deluxe components as I show them to you while I'm explaining how the game plays. And I also got this Gnome plush, which I'm not a huge fan of. He's just, he's okay. So anyway, so I played a 4-player game of this. So I really love the magnetic component. So each person will have their own little markers, which are magnetized and will stick right to the board. So I'll just show you an example. So very cool. Obviously not necessary, but just a nice little touch. And so there is a basic side to this board, and then it looks like there's a more advanced side. So we played with the basic side of the game. So I'll be explaining this side of the board. So each person will get all of their little pieces, which will fill in at the very top of your board in that whole row, and then you have 2 gnomes that you'll be using throughout the game. And all the gnomes are named, so mine were named Holly and Poppy, which I like because one of the stray cats at one of the colonies I take care of, I named her Poppy. So those are the components for each player. So each player will have pieces like that and 2 gnomes. I'm going to show pictures, but you're basically going to have one board that looks like this. And I'll explain what this is and what it means. And you're also going to have this board in which you'll have the tile pieces that come out that you'll be choosing from when you start putting down tiles. And you will have, did we use this? No, I don't believe we used this. So I'm not sure what this is. Maybe it's for a more advanced variant. So I don't believe we used this. So I'm not going to talk about that. So yeah, so we just had the 2 pieces that I showed you. And then in the center of the play area, you are going to, of course, have your starting stump and you will be placing tiles around this and growing your area all together. So on your turn, let me just show you the player aids, because the player aids are nice. They're cardboard as well. So each person will get a player aid that, you know, will tell you what you're doing. So basically on your turn, what you're going to do is choose and place 2 garden tiles, and you might have stored tiles, and I'll talk about how you get stored tiles like this, for example, and what that means. So you can also place your stored tiles, up to 2 of them. Then you're going to resolve for gain your mushrooms, ring marker bonuses, and cascading effects. So resolving means if you complete like a section, a path, you close a ring, you will get to collect every mushroom that is present on that ring. So basically it's kind of like Carcassonne, in which you are going to be trying to close paths and then collect the mushrooms that are all on your path. And depending on how many tiles were used in order to close that ring, you'll also get some kind of a bonus from your player board. So when you're placing down tiles, you want to try and close rings. There are some specific rules about how you can place tiles and placing gnomes and such, and some specific rules about that. So for example, if someone is already on a path which hasn't been closed and you want to place a tile that connects to their path, you have to ask them for permission before you can do that. So there are some specific rules about that, and you cannot place your gnome on a path that someone is already on. But again, there are situations where you will be able to place a tile that is connected to someone else's path, and then you can place your gnome on it. But there's some very specific rules in which you cannot do that as well. So I don't remember what the specific rule was when you cannot do that, but there was some kind of a rule about it. Yeah, I'm not gonna spend time looking for it right now, but there is a rule. But here's a good example to show you like the various rings and stuff that you'll be completing. So like, for example, here's a ring. So there's different kinds of rings that you'll be completing with paths. So that's what you're doing. And then you'll be collecting the mushrooms on them when you resolve it, if you've closed it. And then depending on how many tiles formed that path that you just closed, you will get to remove the first point marker you have up here and put it down in the area indicating the number of tiles that were used to create that path. So obviously the more tiles you use, like for example in the 7 section, the better the bonuses will be. So some of the bonuses can be like you can take one of these signposts and place it somewhere and activate it immediately, or you can get a flower, which is important. So when you collect flowers, you're going to be placing them up here, and you want different kinds of flowers, and those will give you more and more points depending on how many flowers you get, and so on. So for example, if you have 7 or more tiles, this one will let you collect 3. If you place your point marker here, you'll get 3 mushrooms and a flower. So basically, depending on how many tiles make up the closed ring, you will move your marker down to a certain section and then collect your bonus, as well as, of course, in addition to the mushrooms that you collected. Now you must move a gnome. So when you're first starting up the game, you're obviously going to spend the first 2 turns you take placing your gnome somewhere. But subsequently, you're going to move a gnome. So you can move a gnome to an unoccupied path that no one else is on, or you can move it to the stump in order to take some market actions. Or you can move it to the top of the board in order to grab some flowers. So let me just show you. So if you move it to the stump, you can then turn in mushrooms in order to get points. So let's suppose I had 5 pink mushrooms to turn in. I would turn in my 5 pink mushrooms for 7 points, and then there would be a marker that is placed on this so that no one else can turn in 5 pink mushrooms for 7 points. So once someone turns in a specific number of mushrooms for a certain number of points, that area is now closed, and you cannot sell that exact amount of that exact color again. However, you will still be able to sell 2 of each type. These do not ever get closed, so these are always available. Of course, the points are going to be much less than the points you would get from selling all the mushrooms over here. So the pink and the purple mushrooms are worth the most, and they are harder to get in the game because of how the tiles are. So for example, I'll show you a purple tile because those always have a line going directly across. So it's harder for you to make a ring. It's going to take more turns for you to complete your ring in order to collect your purple mushroom. So that's why they are worth more points. And here is an example of a tile that has a pink mushroom on it. So let me just show you some of the mushrooms. So I'll just show you the deluxe components I have. So here are the deluxe mushrooms. So they are just nice wooden screen printed mushrooms. Really nice, but I'll just show you the standard version as well, since I have those here as well. So the standard are just, of course, cardboard. The standard version of this game does come with wooden signposts though. So it does come with those, and yeah. So yeah. But even in the deluxe version, the tiles, of course, are cardboard because otherwise it would be insanely expensive. So yes. So that is essentially the game. So you're just basically going around and around and taking tiles, trying to finish rough rings, collect your bonuses from your player board, trying to collect more flowers. You're trying to, you know, sell mushrooms to the market in order to get point tiles. Well, let me just show you some examples of the deluxe point tiles. So the point tiles in the deluxe version look like this. So for example, here's a green one. So they're all just nice and screen printed. So yeah, you'll be keeping track of your points when you sell mushrooms by collecting these. And of course, in the non-deluxe version, they are cardboard. So yeah, so that is essentially the game. So the game and trigger. So once the bag is empty, let me just go to game and triggers. Game and conditions. So the game and conditions is a player gathers their 8th flower token. And again, you're putting those at the top of your board. So you can just take a look at my picture. A player moves their 8th ring marker, or the bag runs out of tiles. So then you will shuffle the sunset tiles into the bag. So you're going to have set aside a certain number of sunset tiles. Now those will get shuffled into the bag. You'll finish the current round so that each player has had an equal number of turns. And then you will each get one additional final gnome action in turn order. So at this point, you won't get to place any tiles, but you will get to do one final gnome action, which again, when you take a gnome action, you can either you know, move your gnome up to the board, at the top of the board here, in order to collect a flower, or you can go to the, you can go to the stump in order to sell, and or you can access a signpost. You can always move your gnome to a signpost that is existing in the area, and again, signposts were placed by you activating a certain bonus from having, you know, completed a ring. So you can go to a signpost, but you probably wouldn't want to do that for your very last action because there's no point in going to a signpost to collect stuff. So on the very last gnome action of the game you take, you probably want to sell some mushrooms in the market, or you want to collect a flower in order to get more points. So then let's go to game and scoring. So scoring, you're going to get points from your flower score. So this is the highest, this is the point value shown below the rightmost flower token. So you're going to, again, look at all your flowers up here, and the rightmost flower token, you'll score that number of points underneath it. You will get a ring score. This is the point value shown above the rightmost empty ring marker space. So again, when you completed rings, you are moving your ring marker. So you're going to look at the rightmost ring marker and score the point value that is above that space. And then treasure score. So all of the treasures you earned throughout the game, which were those point tokens from selling mushrooms, you'll add those together. And then whoever has the most points will win. I wonder what you do in case of a tie. It says important mushrooms are worth 0 points at the end of the game. Okay, if there is a tie, the gnome with the most unsold mushrooms wins. So yeah, so that is Gnome Hollow. I know that this was like super hyped up at Gen Con. It was one of the most sought after games, and I was quite lucky that my friend was able to pick up a copy for me, again, which I paid for, because I really wanted it, just because, you know, I bought into all the hype. You know, I just heard so much about it, and it seemed like people have been saying for so long it's so amazing and they have to have it. Like, you know, the way it was being hyped up, like I thought it was going to be like the must-have game of the year, and I would just die if I did not have this game. Okay, I wouldn't die, but you know, I'm just it's a hyperbole. but yeah, it is a good game. I think it's a good game. If you like tile placement games, I think it's a good game. You know, you're just collecting bonuses and stuff like that. that. So it's a little bit more involved than Carcassonne, which I really suck at, by the way. I really suck at Carcassonne. So there's more going on in this game than Carcassonne, I feel like, which can make it exciting. It's got really wonderful components, whether you have the deluxe or non-deluxe, like the components are really nice. It's very cutesy, just really adorable artwork and gnomes and mushrooms. So yeah, all of that makes it a very enjoyable experience. Would I say it's mind-blowingly like amazing? No, I would not say that this is like the must-have game of the year. Like, I'll talk about my must-have game of the year once the end of the year comes, but I don't think it's Gnome Hollow. Like, I think it's a good game. I just think it was overhyped for what it is. So if that, tempers your expectations a little bit, then I would say good, because, I do think it was overhyped in my own personal experience. But yeah, it's a good game. I'm not going to say it's a bad game, because it's not. It's a good game. I just do think it was overhyped for what it is. So yeah, maybe my expectations were really high going into it because of how much it was hyped up and how much I had heard about people saying that it's the most, like people who had gotten a chance to play pre-production copies of this or prototypes of this. Everyone was talking about how it's their must-have game. As soon as it's released, they're going to go after it. Like, I can think of other games that I would, rank higher than this. So yeah, that I personally have had a chance to play that have not been produced yet. So yeah, again, a good game. If you like tile placement games, if you like games like Carcassonne, I think you will enjoy this game. So yeah, so that is my play of Gnome Hollow. So let's move on. So another game I played recently, which I do not own, but I will speak about, is called A Message from the Stars. And this is a 2024 game for 2 to 8 players, designed by Clarence Simpson, and the art is done by Leonard Dupont, and it's published by All Play Games. Now, this is a deduction game. So this has communication limits, cooperative. It's a cooperative game. There's deduction and induction and pattern recognition, and what else? Let's see, spelling, yes, and team-based game. Okay. So in this game, one person is playing as the alien and the other people are playing as humans on Earth who are trying to understand this alien language. Now, I will say from the get-go, I absolutely did not like this game. Okay, so I played a 3-player game with this where one person was the alien and I was on the human team. So the alien, so you're basically, I'm going to show pictures, but you're basically going to have this like a board, and it's going to tell you what different letters can be in each section. So there's different sections of the board. So there's, let's see, and you need to be good at math. So you need to be good at math and have good word skills as well. So, oh, this picture doesn't really show it very well. Let me just find a picture that shows things better so that I can talk about it. There's not many photos of this game. 1 second. Alrighty, so here's a picture where I can talk about it. So, okay, so you're going to have one section of this board, and on one section, each person, human person, is going to have this. You're going to have a box that says trust on it, then you're going to have a box that says amplify, and then a box that says suspicion. Now, trust has a plus, so any trust letter will have a +1 value. Any amplify letter will have a ×2 value, and suspicion is a negative. So for example, let's suppose you get a word and the alien is going to tell you this word, cloud, for example, has a value of 8. So you're going to try to figure out which letters belong in the various sections by trying to do a little bit of math and deduction. And you're going to be doing this time and time again and trying to figure out which values different letters have by analyzing different words as they come in. What you will be told in the beginning is that in the trust section, there will be one common letter, so which is a green colored letter, and there will be 2 uncommons, so either red or black. In the amplify section, with all the letters underneath, you'll be told that there are going to be 2 amplifies. So what does it say? Sorry, 1 common, so 1 green, and 1 uncommon, 1 red or black. And then in suspicion, so it says 1 random letter, so it can be anything. So negative present. So for example, if you get a word that the alien gave you and it says something like cloud, let's just go with cloud again, and instead it has a negative value, now you know that it's going to consist of a suspicion letter as well because it's a negative value. So You're just doing this throughout the entire game where you're just getting words and trying to deduce the values of those letters. You're trying to figure out if the letter is a trust letter, an amplify letter, or a suspicion letter by doing math and deduction. So you need to be good at both. And the alien needs to be good at both because in the game I played, there was one instance where the alien made a mistake and calculated the value of a word wrong. We still were able to guess the letters correctly in the end, and I'll explain, a little bit more about that later. But so it didn't impact our game too much, but if the alien makes a mistake, it can really impact your play of this game. So there is a lot of room for human error in this game. So that already brings this to a negative for me. And will not play again game for me. So once the alien gives the humans a word with a value on it, and you're trying to deduce what each letter is and which section, blah, 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 and you kind of take notes and mark your guesses and so on, then you get to give a word back to the alien. So I forgot to mention that before all of this, each person is going to be given a card. So the alien is going to have a card, and they're going to mark 3 different words that they are trying to get you, the humans, to guess. And the humans will have a secret card in which they'll be marking 3 different words by rolling a die. So it's random. And then we're going to be trying to get the alien to guess those words. So in the game I played, the words that we, the humans, had were temperature, volume, and circle, I believe, yes, or something like cylindrical or something like that. Center. Actually, I think it was center. So it was temperature, volume, and center, I believe. So those were the words we had that we were trying to get the alien to guess. So when we would give a word back to the aliens, we would always try to choose a word that was similar to the words that were on our card that the alien would need to guess at the end of the game. So, and the alien would try to give us words that were somehow related to his words that we would need to guess as the humans at the end of the game. So you're going back and forth for a certain number of rounds, giving words to each other, and every time we, the humans, gave the alien a word, he would then write the value of that word based on his own personal board and what he can see each letter is and what the values of those letters are. So you're just trying to decode the alien language this way by, assigning values to all the letters, by deducing what those values are, okay? So you're going to do this for a certain number of rounds. Once that part of the game is over, then you are going to look at the card you have, erase your little marks which indicate which words you have that the alien needs to guess and vice versa, and you're going to exchange those cards, and now you will be trying to guess the secret words that each person had. And then you'll get a certain number of points based on your correct guesses, and you'll get a certain number of points based on the correct letters you guessed that were the trust letters, the amplify letters, and the suspicion letters. And again, you were doing math throughout this entire game and trying to figure out the values of these letters. And then based on the number of points you get, then you can determine whether you as a team won or did really badly, whatever. So in the game we played, we guessed all the letters correctly. Again, there was a mistake on the alien's part, which once he realized at the very end of the game, he made a mistake. I think it's fair to say that we as the humans guessed correctly based on his mistake. So that's why human error is a huge problem in this game. Okay, so that's one big issue with this game if you like deduction games. My biggest issue with this game is that one thing does not connect with the other, okay? So the letters, in trying to deduce the values of the letters, in the end, that has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with trying to guess what the correct words were. Like, yes, you might be trying to give words to each other that relate to the words on your card that you need to guess in the end, but at the end of the day, the values of the letters mean absolutely nothing when you are guessing the words that you need to guess by looking at the other player's card and try to figure out what words he was giving you clues for. So for example, we as the humans had the words temperature, volume, and center. And so clues we were giving to our alien were like phone for volume. We gave science because science kind of related to all of those. We gave cloud. So we gave different words to the alien that we wanted him to tell us the values of, and we hoped would give him an indication of what words he would need to guess in the very end. So when you guess in the very end, I'll have pictures here, but you're basically going to show your entire card that has a bunch of different words in 3 different columns, and you're just trying to guess what the words were. So we're trying to guess the words that the alien had, and he's going to try to guess which words we, the humans, had. And again, the values of the letters have nothing to do with that. And that just irritates the hell out of me. I'm like, why are we spending this whole entire game trying to guess the values of these letters? And then in the end, we have to guess these words and hope that the clues we got related to those words somehow. It's just totally a shit show. Like, in my opinion, they just have nothing to do with each other. And it just really makes the game not good, in my opinion. And the room for human error also makes it not good, in my opinion. So I know I have a very negative opinion of this game. So maybe overly negative, but I just did not enjoy it at all. So yeah, I just think it's not the kind of deduction game I would want to play. I think deduction games in which there is room for human error is just not a good deduction game. Like, I just do not want to waste my time playing a game in which there is room for error multiple times throughout the game. And yeah, and again, the values of the letters have nothing to do with the words. Like, I just honestly do not understand the positive reviews of this game. So that was my experience of this game, and for me, it's a do not recommend. Like, I did not enjoy this game, but hey, if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. But for me, an absolutely will not play again game for me. So yeah, so that was a message from the stars. So let's move on. So a couple other games I played recently, which I will not go into too much detail because I've discussed them before, are Cities. So I think I've had like my 5th or 6th play of Cities now, which is from Devere Games, and then Harmonies. So yes, I finally got to play Harmonies using my new cloth bag, which I purchased from Etsy, so that was nice. I just really great bag, just absolutely loved it. So yeah, so those were the other games I played recently. Again, I've discussed those games in detail in previous videos, so you can go watch those if you want to learn how they play. So let's move on. So let's talk about games that I am backing or that I have received. So again, the only game I'm currently backing right now is So You've Been Cursed, and this goes until August 29th. So it has 11 days to go at the time I'm shooting this, so 10 by the time you guys watch it. And so far it has raised $73,100 with over almost 1,300 backers. So yeah, so I'm backing that, and that is currently the only game I am backing. So let me just show you some new arrivals. So I already showed you some games that I purchased by having discussed them already. So Mezen and Gnome Hollow were some games that I purchased from Gen Con without actually going to Gen Con. So let me just show you some other games that I've purchased, and then I'll show you one review copy that I have. So a new game that I purchased, which I noticed people talking about from Gen Con, is NeuroRiders. So this is a game that really piqued my interest, and I saw that my game store had it, so I used store credit to purchase it. I have read from all of the reviews that there's kind of a tug of war going on in this game, so it is for 2 to 4 players. So almost all of the reviews I've read said that you should play at only 2 or 4 players, not at 3 players. So I don't know much about this game, but like it just seemed like a cool concept, something about the brain, and there's just all these cool colorful tiles. The aesthetic of this game seems like very like 90s to me, like very like Nintendo-y or Nickelodeon, like that network that used to exist. I don't know if they still exist, Nickelodeon, but it just really reminded me of that, like the aesthetic of this game. So yeah. And then there are these 2 smaller tiles. And then just a couple of cards. Oh, and here are some player pieces. These are wooden. And I'll just show you some of the cards and then the score pad. So have not had a chance to play this yet. But here are some cards. So I think that it's a game about forming some kind of connections, like when you're thinking about your brain and the connections that the synapses and the neurons and whatever make. I think it has something to do with that, if I remember correctly. And here is the score pad. So yeah, so this is a game that I purchased recently, so I'm really excited to give this a go. I hope I'll be able to play it tomorrow night at my game night. I hope so. So that's a new purchase. Oh, one of the games that came with my Gnome Hollow since I purchased the all-in is this promotional edition of Flip 7, which I'll be honest, I have absolutely no interest in playing. I know that the op was like, you know, making a big deal about this game, and people like influencers were making a big deal about this game and how amazing it is. I'll be honest, I have absolutely no interest in playing it. So it says, you're among the lucky few to receive a promotional copy of the greatest card game of all time, aka Flip 7. This special limited edition was created to help introduce the world to their new favorite card game, now available for purchase online and in stores nationwide. Spread the love by playing Flip 7 with your friends and family, then play it forward by sharing it with others. May the cards flip in your favor. Like, it's already, I'm sorry, it's just kind of a turn off to me, like when people say like, oh, the greatest card game ever, and when they're describing their own game, like, let other people be the judge of that. Like, I don't like it when designers or publishers market their own game as the greatest game ever. It's just a huge turn off for me. So this was a promotional edition that came with my purchase of Gnome Hollow, and I'm just turned off by what's written on the box and all of the hype that was around this game that I saw. It just made me not really ever want to play it. But let me just see what kind of a game it is anyway, in case any of you are interested in playing it. So let me see, Flip 7. So let's see, Flip 7 is, so it says it's for 3 to 99 players, and it's got a 7.5 rating. It's a push your luck game, that's what it says. So yeah, it says in Flip 7, there's only one card, one card, 2 2s, 3 3s, etc., plus a bunch of special cards that can score you extra points, give you a second chance, or freeze you or your opponents in your tracks. Yeah, it does not sound like something I'm interested in playing, so definitely will not be keeping that. Okay, so another purchase of mine that I made recently is Yokohama. So Yokohama has a new edition, and I purchased the deluxe version of it with the premium tokens. I will say already that what irritated me is, so this is published by Synapses. The premium tokens came in this beautiful box with this like hollow foil on it. Just like, look at that, it's so gorgeous. But everything fits into the main box. So like, why couldn't they make the actual cover of this box like beautiful like this? Like, why? Like, why does the actual cover not have that beautiful hollow foil on it? Like, who is going to actually want to store their tokens in this separate box when they all fit into the main box? Like, it seems like such a waste to put hollow foil on this small box, and it is just so freaking pretty. And it came with a nice insert too, but again, everything fits into the main box. So like, why would I want to keep this? Like, I just don't understand. I mean, I'm definitely keeping this box and I'm going to use it for something else, like maybe my own prototype, and I'm just really disappointed that they did that on the small box and not the main box. Like, that just makes no sense to me. So I bought this game because it had really amazing reviews, and I know it's like an older game, so let me just look it up. Yokohama. So Yokohama is originally a 2016 game, but this new edition was just released recently. So it has a 7.8 rating on BGG, and you know, take those ratings with a grain of salt always, because you know how that goes. So it's designed by Hisashi Hayashi, and it's published by Synapses Games, and the art is done by the Creation Studio, Adam P. McIver, and Ryo Niyamo. So this is a contracts, endgame bonuses, grid movement, modular board, network and route building, and etc. So there's more going on. So it says, it is the start of the Meiji era. Japan has reestablished trade relations with the West, and the sleepy fishing village of Yokohama has become the country's premier trading hub. Goods such as copper and raw silk flow out of Yokohama, while foreign technology and culture trickles in. Modernization is beginning to take hold in Japan, and Yokohama's merchants are at the forefront. So in this game, you are acting as merchants vying to gain fame through successful business ventures that include collecting trade goods, learning new technologies, and developing the city's shops and trading houses. To find new business, players will need to roam Yokohama's streets in search of opportunities. So a long time ago, I played this game called Iki, which I absolutely loved, a Japanese themed game. In fact, there's so many Japan themed games that I absolutely love, like Iki, like Satori, and so on. So I, already feel like I will love this. So again, everything fits into the main box. I did take all of the punch boards and stuck them underneath the inserts because otherwise there was like a huge gap between the top of the inserts and the lid. So I stuck all of the punch boards at the bottom so that there is no huge gap anymore, and everything fits in so nicely. So here are some dual layered player boards. There's a bunch of these kinds of tiles, again, dual layered. From the deluxe components, I got these metal coins, bags provided by myself in this case. It did come with bags, but I wanted to use my own bags for this. And here is one of the inserts, which has player components and the upgraded fish tokens, and then the ship. And then here are some more upgraded tokens that I purchased, which again came in this little box here. Here are some player boards, I believe, or maybe not. I don't know if they're player boards. It looks like they're player boards. Then there's just a bunch of other stuff in here. So there's like some various tiles. There's like a whole bunch of them. So I'm not going to be showing you all of them, of course, but just really beautiful artwork. Just really, really aesthetically pleasing. But I'll try to show you the inside of the insert right now as it looks. So as you can see at the bottom, you can see the punch boards here and where they are. And then the tiles that I just showed you. Here are some cards, here are some more tiles, and the other things that I already showed you. So everything fits really nicely. I actually left all of the cardboard regular tokens in the punch boards at the bottom, so if we ever do need them, I can just punch them out in case we run out of some deluxe ones. So they're in the very bottom if I ever do need them. And again, there are a bunch of these different tiles. Yeah, and let me just show you some of the cards. So yeah, I am really excited to play this. So yeah, excited to have this game. I'd heard quite a bit about it. So really, really looking forward to playing it. And yeah, so that is my purchase of Yokohama. And now, oh, let me just show you the player aid before I put this away. So it comes with these nice player aids. Oh, 1 second. Oh, get in. Okay, here we go. So a quick turn summary on one side, and then end of game scoring and such on the back, I believe. So yeah, so those are nice, and everything just fits in so nicely into this box. So yeah, just a really nice box and a nice looking game. So excited to play this. Now I have a review copy to show you, which I'm super duper excited about. And that is Sweetlands from Uchibikoya Games. They are the same publisher as Ostia and Ostia Pirates and Aqua Garden, which I believe I showed you in my last video. So this is a review copy. I will not be doing any sponsored content for this. You know, they said that they will, of course, gift me with a production copy of the game, just for, you know, playing it and posting photos and you know, discussing it in a weekly playback, but I'm not creating a sponsored overview video of this game. But oh my god, I wish I could keep this. Like, I've already been told that after I play it, I'll have to ship it on to another reviewer, which makes me sad because oh my god, I'm just obsessed with the artwork. I'm obsessed with the components. It just looks amazing. It looks like a really heavy game. Like, the box itself says it's 100 to 200 minutes, and it is a 1 to 4 player game. Now, to me, this looks like a Candyland for adults, and you will see why in a minute. So, holy crap, there are a ton of components in this box, okay? So let's just go over, I'll just start from the top to the bottom. So we'll start with the, you know, all of the meeples, and then eventually get to the boards and stuff like that. So it comes with a bunch of these like little chocolate looking bunny rabbits, super duper cute. So a bunch of those. And again, for a pre-production copy, super duper nice. Okay. Comes with a bunch of these like wooden like houses. I don't know what they are. They look like circus tents. Maybe they're cheese. Maybe they're meant to be cheese because they almost look like cheese with the holes in them, don't they? So maybe that's actually cheese. Here are some other things, maybe some chocolate bars or something like that. So, you know, everything I feel like is going to be food themed in this game, right? So those are some of the components. So let me show you some more. There are these milk cartons. there are these. So it looks like ice cream cones, upside down ice cream cones. So yeah, that's what it looks like. Very cool, like so cool. There's just one of these, so maybe this is a round tracker or something like that. I do not know yet because I have not played, but there are 4 upside down ice cream cones. There are these, no idea what this is. Is it popcorn? I cannot tell what this is, but some kind of food, I imagine. Maybe you can tell me if you can figure it out. So there's that. Okay, moving on. There's still a lot more, a lot more. We have a bunch of stuff in here as well. So we've got various, okay, so first we've got a couple little train tokens, which are really cute. Like, actually, let me take this out because the detail on these trains is really nice. So for example, like look at it from this view, the tires, the wheels kind of stick out a little bit. Like just really nice train tokens. So there are 4 of those, so I imagine each player will get their own. And then the same with the horse carts. Like the horse carts are really nice as well. So just really, really nice. I mean, just really fantastic quality. No idea what these are supposed to be. And then just a bunch of other tokens. So let's see, there's some regular kind of looking cubes and stuff. So there's just a bunch of plain old cubes and circles. And then we've got, what is this? This looks like diamonds. Absolutely love the color and everything, just really nice. These, I do not know what they're supposed to be. Maybe telephones. I don't know. It looks like phones almost, doesn't it? Okay, so that's that. Now let me show you some of the cardboard components. So we've got different tiles and different colors. And when you see the player boards, you'll be seeing how everything just kind of will end up being placed on your own player board. Oh, okay, here are some player components. Let me just show you those. So the different player colors are this like really pretty turquoise color, a chocolatey brown, like this kind of like maroon color, and this really pretty like beige color, which is funny because, you know, typically I wouldn't say beige is pretty, but that one actually is. Here are some more components. And now we will be getting into some of the bigger stuff. But let me just show you these tiles. Okay, so now the player boards and everything else. Now, first let me just show you some of the cards. Oh my God, because the cards are really, really cool. There's 2 full bags of cards, a lot of cards. So I'll just show you one bag. So all the cards have this image on the back, and then on the front, they all have different names of like different kinds of like people or desserts. It looks like very, very, very cool. So for example, like this one says Thomas Tasha, but I know that the, like, oh, here's one, Irene ice cream. so there's like all just different kinds of names attached to desserts. So this one is like Jerry Ginger Nuts. so yeah, just a really funny, oh, here's one, Henrietta Herb Heart. So yeah, just really cool alliteration, lots of interesting names and stuff, but a crap ton of these cards, like so many. I do imagine that this is going to be a pretty heavy game. Okay, now I have to show you the player boards, which are freaking amazing. So it took me a long time to punch this out, by the way. So when you punch it out, it looks like this. So I had to punch out all of these pieces for every player board. And then you have a bunch of these different inlays that you can put underneath a player board, depending on which character you want to play as. So for example, one of my favorite desserts is the nata pastels, those desserts that you can get in Portugal. So you could actually play as Nata Pastel and put her underneath and have her as your character. So let me just show you a bunch of the other characters because it comes with quite a few. And again, each one is double-sided. So yeah, just very, very cool artwork. Like, absolutely love the aesthetic of this game. It is very, very cool. So yes, I will be very sad to part ways with this game because I have a big sweet tooth. I love my desserts. Like, I shouldn't say this or admit to this, but I have dessert almost every single night. Like, I am obsessed with desserts. So I also have a salty tooth. Like, sometimes right after eating dessert, then I feel like I need something salty, which is crazy. Yeah. Here are some other boards. Man, isn't this artwork just amazing? So I do imagine this game is going to be such a table hog because I believe each player will have their own board of this as well. So each person is going to have one of these, and then each person is going to have one of these. So it is a really big table hog. So I imagine each person is going to have one of these because the game came with multiples of these as well. So yeah, but look at how freaking beautiful this is. Like, I'm just obsessed with this art style. And then you get to the main board. So again, each player is going to have one of those, one of the main character boards, one of those other small side boards, and then you have the main board. And this is the main board. So yeah, this game is going to be a really big table hog, like super duper big. Like, I don't even know if I can play this at game night at the game store because I don't think the tables will be big enough for this. Like, do not know how that's gonna happen. I think we'll have to play in my house and just manage somehow. I do have a really big table and half of the table is always covered with games because I've never actually, so my table can seat 8 people and the maximum number of people I've had here ever at one time, including me, is 5 people. So I will just have to find room for all the games that are sitting at the other half of the table and put them somewhere, and then we can play this because huge table hog. I actually don't have the rules yet. The publisher is still tweaking the rules and will send them to me once they are finalized. I believe that this game will be released in September on Kickstarter, if I remember correctly. So, or maybe not September, maybe it was October, but there's a little bit of time yet, a little bit of time. So I do need to get this played and then create content for it and then sadly ship it on to the next person, which I'll be very sad about because I really love all the components. Like, I really love them. I loved all the artwork. It was just so nice. Okay, so yeah, so that is a review copy of Sweetland. So let's move on. Before we move on from new arrivals completely, I want to show you guys this sheep that a friend of mine gave to me. I absolutely love him. So my friend who picked up my games for me at Gen Con, he gifted this to me. So he said that one of the people who was working at the same booth as him spent over like $100 at Catan and as a result received this free sheep, and he didn't want to keep it, which I think is absolutely crazy. So then he asked my friend if he wanted it, and he said no, but he knows someone who would appreciate it, and that someone is me, and I do appreciate it. I love it so freaking much. So in addition to the games that he was able to pick up for me that I again paid for, he gifted me this sheep, and it's heavy and it's nice and I love it so much. And I'll tell you why I love it so much, because number one, Catan was my gateway game into the world of board gaming, and one of my stories that I tell everyone about Catan is the time that I won by a shit ton of points because I kept on asking for everyone's sheep and everyone was laughing at me and thought I was being really stupid, but they just were not paying attention and they didn't realize I had a port where I could trade in sheep for other things. And so I was able to, you know, build up a lot and kick everyone's butt because they just weren't paying attention and they would laugh at me every time I said I wanted their sheep. And so I won. So yes, so I always tell people about that one time I won with my amazing sheep strategy. So to have this is just really awesome, since yeah, it was my gateway game into the world of board gaming, and I just love this so freaking much. I cannot believe that the guy who spent over $100 on Catan merchandise did not want this. Like, if you are such a huge fan of Catan, why would you not want to keep this sheep? Like, but hey, you know, one person's trash is another person's treasure, so I love it. So yes, I wanted to share this sheep with you guys. So let's move on. So I still need to pick a winner for last week's giveaway of a game that I was culling, so I'm going to do that a little bit later and then leave a comment underneath. But that got me to thinking, like, I do have some Ko-fi subscribers who pay $15 a month in order to be entered into giveaways of games that I'm giving away. And if any of them are watching and you're like, wait a second, but now you're giving away games that you're going to be culling as long as people pay for shipping. So like, why should we still support you on Ko-fi when you will be giving away games that you're culling? And I'll tell you why, because I'm not going to give away like pre-production copies that are really nice so that you can get a copy of a game that maybe you didn't want to back on Kickstarter, or that you can get ahead of time before other people receive it. So for example, like for my Ko-fi subscribers, I will eventually be giving away my copy of Inventors of the South Tigris, as well as my pre-production copy of Navoria and Yonder, which are all really nice quality. So those three games are super nice quality, like very near production quality, and those will be hopefully going to my Ko-fi subscribers. And since they pay $15 a month to support my content, of course, when I ship them the games, I ship them for free. I don't ask them to pay for shipping. So when I am giving away games that I'm culling in my videos to my subscribers, you are going to be paying for shipping, and it's, you know, not going to be games like that I am, you know, getting to preview and stuff like that. So that is why, so if you are a Ko-fi subscriber, you know, you'll have access to games like these, whereas my subscribers who, you know, maybe want a game that I'm planning on culling do not have access to those kinds of games, and they will still be paying for shipping. So I hope that that helps, you know, explain why. And I will not be doing, you know, a giveaway every single week because number one, I've just been so insanely busy. I still haven't had time to figure out which game I'm going to give away next. So, you know, it'll be sporadic, but, you know, and I'm not going to announce it in like the description of the video. Like every time you see the section games I'm culling, you're just going to have to watch it, I guess, in order to see if there's a giveaway that week. Because as I've mentioned before, I don't want people just showing up for free games, watching like 2 minutes of it and then just never supporting the rest of my content. So again, you will have to be subscribed to my channel, and you will have to have so yeah, you will have to have left one comment at least some point in time on my channel before. So yeah, so that is just a little explanation on the giveaways and games that I'm culling. So yeah, so no game to announce this week just because life has been really busy. So let's move on. So let's just talk about some updates. So FlagCon is still getting planned. So I just feel like I haven't mentioned it in a while. So yeah, do come to FlagCon. So I'll leave a link below for FlagCon. So yeah, it's going to be really awesome this year. So if you haven't bought your tickets yet, definitely buy your tickets for FlagCon. The cat update. So, I guess I can show you some more baby skunks. They are super cute, and they're just like super used to me. Like they're like not even like freaked out when they see me now, and I've been able to get pretty close to them, and they're just, you know, eating their food, eating the cat food, and just not even minding me. So yeah. So I did post in a local Facebook group asking if anyone had seen Girly. So I had a really good picture of Girly, like I have lots of pictures of Girly, and I was just curious, you know, so I was like, okay, let me just post in a local community group whether anyone has seen her. And you know, one person was like, oh, she kind of looks like this cat that was dead on the road. Like, you know, I can't remember when they said that they saw this dead cat. But the location of this dead cat that they saw was not very, like, I think within walking distance of where this colony is. So I don't think it was her. And they said that, you know, they didn't get a good look, but like the color might be similar. So I was like, I just kind of, you know, brushed it off as it not being Girly, the cat who I haven't seen in like 2 months at least. So then I was like, okay, you know, so that left me a little bit hopeful that maybe she was just adopted by someone, you know, because she was a very friendly cat. And then someone else posted, was like, oh yeah, I think that's the dead cat. And then I'm like, okay, which dead cat? Like, can you tell me where, or like, you know, give me any details? And they have yet to give me any details of this dead cat that they supposedly saw that looks like Girly. So I have no idea, but I hope that that's not the case, because that would make me so sad. So yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, so, you know, haven't seen Girly, it's sad, but I'm hopeful that she got adopted because she is very friendly. And like the rescue organization people that I, you know, talk to on a regular basis, they said that there were other people who had expressed interest in adopting Girly just because they knew how friendly she is. So maybe she got adopted, and maybe the person who adopted her just doesn't even want to say anything because they don't want to like return her to the colony, which is fine. Like, I would not be upset if she got adopted. I would just be happy. I would in fact be happy that she has a home now, but it would be nice to know that she has a home instead of be left, wondering what happened to her. So, you know, I wish the adopter would come forward and say that they gave her a good home, which is what I would like to hear. So yeah, so no other updates on cats. Oh, I guess Ghost Cat, yeah, still exhausted trying to trap this cat. One night I managed to trap a really chonky raccoon. The raccoon was so cute. I felt really bad, of course, that he got trapped instead of the cat. And when I, you know, went to take a closer look at what I managed to trap and saw it was this really chonky raccoon, he was so sweet. He didn't say anything. I just lifted off the blanket and the shower curtain that I had purchased to keep the blanket dry and everything. And I looked at him and he looked at me with his big, beautiful eyes. He was just so sweet. He just looked at me with these really big pleading eyes, and I was like, oh, like I kind of wanted to keep him, but of course I was not going to keep him. So I, you know, quickly opened the cage and the trap and let him go, and he bolted away. But oh my God, he was so sweet. Just really sweet, chonky raccoon. But I bought a camera, so I'm going to leave a camera. I believe they're like used by hunters and stuff, so they're motion activated. So whenever they detect motion, they start snapping pictures. So I just want to get an idea of whether this cat is even coming, or whether I'm just wasting my time going really late at night, setting this trap, and then waking up at like 5 in the morning to go check it to see if anything's been trapped. Like, I'm just exhausted. So I finally bought a camera so that I can set it and see what's going on and whether this cat is even coming near this trap. I've come to the realization that this cat is probably being fed elsewhere. He probably has another food source, in which case I would not feel terrible just abandoning this location, because again, he's the only cat there, and I spend a lot of time and money on feeding the other 2 colonies, so I don't know. So, you know, I'm still going on and trying to trap this cat, but eventually I might need to abandon these efforts because no one else seems to really care, and it's just very exhausting, and he might have another food source, which is why he is not getting trapped. And if he has another food source, then I won't feel as guilty. But the rescue organization really believes he must have another food source, which is why he's impossible to trap. So anyway, so that is the cat update. So let's move on. So we finished this book. We finished reading this book, yay. So I really enjoyed it. One thing I will say, that there's like no like major plot in this book, right? It's just about her in the dream store and the different kinds of dreams that the dream creators make and the different type of dreams that people have. But I feel like it's very insightful into how we as humans dream about different things, and I related to so much of it. So in the recent couple chapters we read, one was about the lives of others, which I thought was a really good chapter and very relatable. So, you know, this chapter talked about how certain people imagine other people to have such amazing lives, and they sometimes wish they could live that person's life and think that that person's life is so amazing while their life really sucks. But then in this chapter, you see someone who gets to live someone else's life in a dream and sees that it's, you know, not as great as he thought it was. Like, not all that is gold glitters, right? So, or it's not all that glitters that is gold, or something like that. So he really learns that just because something seems amazing from the outside doesn't mean that it is. And I feel like that's so relatable, right? And that's, you know, a huge lesson I think that people need to take away from social media, is because everyone posts about all the amazing things that are happening in their life. People don't tend to post about the bad stuff in their life. So if you see like an influencer who is just like, you know, traveling the world and has an amazing boyfriend and whatever, blah, 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 you might think, oh, that person's life is so amazing and I wish my life were like that. Like, how come my life has all these problems and this person's life doesn't? You know, who knows? They might have problems that we don't know about. So, you know, it's just a good reality check that not everything is as it seems, and you should be grateful for the life that you do have, because you don't know what someone else's life is truly like. You don't know what, you know, kinds of struggles or conflicts they have in their life and so on. So that chapter was pretty insightful, I thought, and very relatable. And then the next chapter, the last chapter, was about people who are pre-ordering dreams for their loved ones so that their loved ones can dream about them once after they have died, at some unspecified or specified time in the future after they have passed away. So they get to go to Dollarga and order a dream to be given to their loved one. And I think that that is so amazing. Like, I wish we could do that. Like, I wish we could go to a dream maker and say, hey, you know, because I feel like some people do have, like, and the chapter discusses this and explains how all these people have some kind of premonition or feeling that they're going to die, which is when they start coming into the store to pre-order their dreams for their loved ones so their loved one can dream about them. And I feel like, you know, a lot of deaths that I hear about, I feel like people kind of had a feeling that they knew they were going to die. You know, I've heard a lot of stories like that. So I think it would be just so awesome if we could pre-plan for our deaths and create dreams for our loved ones so that they can see us once more after we are gone. So I will say for myself, I have had dreams of deceased loved ones. So my cat Dobby. So Dobby, as I've discussed before, he died of cancer, and I had a lot of guilt surrounding his death. Like, after he died, I felt immensely guilty that I, you know, had him go through the surgery to remove the tumor. Then I had him go on chemotherapy because the veterinarian told me that he could probably live for another couple months to maybe even a year, which turned out to be completely untrue. He died very shortly after I brought him home from the vet after his surgery. He stayed in the hospital like for I think a week after his surgery, and then within another week, maybe not even a week, he was gone. And I felt so guilty about everything. Like, I felt guilty about having put him through the surgery. I felt guilty about, you know, bringing him home and giving him all these medications in order to try to alleviate his pain and make the cancer go away. And he was on chemotherapy. He was on an IV drip. I was feeding him food through in liquid form through a syringe. Like, there was all this stuff going on, and he was just really miserable. And he was like, you know, my soul cat. He was like my best friend ever. And so I have dreams, and the dreams I have of Dobby are like this. So in my dreams, Dobby is sick, but he miraculously recovers. Like, so in every dream I have of him, it's like he just miraculously recovers from his cancer and then lives for another year. And I kid you not, that's every single dream that I have of Dobby. So I think it has a lot to do with my guilt and what I wished would have happened. So that's what I have. You know, that's how Dobby enters my dreams. And then my very first cat that I had as a child who went missing, there's a lot of guilt surrounding that as well. So I had a cat for like 8 years. His name was Kitty. He was also a tuxedo cat, and he was an indoor-outdoor cat. And a few days before my 16th birthday, he had left home and never came back. And during those days, my family, we had other relatives visiting. The house was very busy. We were like planning for my 16th birthday party, and I have a lot of guilt that maybe he felt neglected and that's why he just didn't come back. Like, I have no idea what happened to him. He went missing. I was a complete wreck for several months, just crying all the time. I put up posters everywhere, could not find him. Just a complete wreck when he went missing. And to this day, I have no idea whatever happened to him. So the dreams I have of Kitty are so bizarre, and I have no idea what they mean. So when Kitty would go outside, oh, and speaking of cats, here's Zeytoon. Hello, Zeytoonie. We're talking about tuxedo cats, and here you are making an entrance. So the dream that I have all the time of Kitty is that so whenever he wanted to go outside or come in, he would sit in this window in the kitchen, and there was no screen on this window, so we would just open up the window. He would leave through that window, and when he wanted to come back inside, and this is in my mom's house, of course, he would sit in the window and let us know that he wanted to come back in. So in my dream that I have of Kitty, there's always two cats sitting in the window wanting to come in, but one is Kitty and one is not, and they look completely identical, and I have to figure out which one is Kitty to let the right cat in, which is so bizarre. Like, I'm like, what a weird dream. What does this even mean? Why do I have this dream? Oh, you're so cute, Zeytoonie. You're just perfect timing, perfect timing. So yeah, so just a very bizarre dream. So these are the dreams that I have of my loved ones, which happen to be cats. So tuxedo cats, like Zeytoon here. So yeah, so those are the dreams I have. But it would be so nice if I could like plan for dreams, and if other people could plan for dreams for their loved ones to see after they are gone. Like, I would just really, really love that. And then of course the epilogues were just kind of like, okay, whatever. Like, they were fine. Like, you know, one was about the missing flutter that was discovered, and I don't even remember what the other epilogue was about now, to be honest. But yeah. overall, really fun book, very insightful book into how we as humans dream, about what we dream about, and so on. So let me know your thoughts if you read this book, what you think of it, and yeah. And so I thought we would talk about what we might read for our next fiction book club. So so Zeytoon drools when he's happy, so he's drooling all over this table now. So for the next book, I thought with September around the corner, and I feel like it's going to take a couple of weeks minimum to read this book because I know that I cannot shoot a video coming up in August. Like the last weekend of August I won't be able to shoot a video because I'll be out of town, and then the last weekend of September I'll be out of town again, and then the first weekend of October I'll be out of town because of Essen. So I thought we could read something that is appropriate for Halloween, since the next book will probably take us into the end of October. So I have a couple suggestions here, and let me know if any of these tickle your fancy and whether you would like to read them for the next book. So the first suggestion I have would be really perfect for Halloween, I guess, is A Night in the Lonesome October. So this book has 31 chapters for the 31 days of October. So this book says, what is the description of this? So it says, this darkly sparkling amalgam of horror, humor, mystery, and fantasy was first published in 1993. Roger Zelazny's last book prior to his untimely death. It has inspired not only many fans to read it every year in October, a chapter a day, but also Neil Gaiman's brilliant story, Only the End of the World Again. Zeytoon, what are you doing? Okay, so that's one possible suggestion. Another one, Zeytoon, is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. So this is a U.S. Okay, Zeytoon, no, don't knock over the camera. So this one is a supposed to be like an Edgar Allan Poe story reimagined, I think. So it says a gripping and atmospheric reimagining of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. Blah blah blah. So yeah, so this is kind of short. It's only 158 pages, but it does have a follow-up book. So if we happen to finish it before the end of October, we can always read the second book in the series, because I believe it's a trilogy, or maybe it's a duology. I don't really remember, but I know that I also own the follow-up book to this. So that's a suggestion. Another suggestion I have is Never Whistle at Night. So this is an anthology of Indigenous horror stories. So if we read this, we could do like a story for each week. Perfect for Halloween because horror stories, but Indigenous horror stories. So that's another suggestion. I wonder how many stories are in here. Let me see. It looks like there's quite a few. So I think that could take us to the end of October. So yeah, there's a number of stories in here. So that would be a really cool suggestion, I think, for the next book. And then finally, another cozy read, if you really enjoyed this cozy read and you want another cozy read, is Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis. So this one says that it's about, so it looks like it's, okay, I'll just read the description. It's bad enough waking up in a half-destroyed evil wizard's workshop with no eyebrows, no memories, and no idea how long you have before the dread lord whomever shows up to murder you horribly and then turn your skull into a goblet or something. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So something about a wizard waking up, and there's other like kinds of monsters, but it's supposed to be a really cozy like fantasy read. So yeah, so if this sounds like something you're interested in, maybe this could be the next book. So these are like, I think, 4 suggestions for what we read next. So let me know which one of these piques your interest more. And if you want to participate, leave your votes in the comments below for which book you want to read. And I'll include my own vote, and then whichever one gets the most votes, we'll go with. Now, if there's only one other person who wants to do a book for, you know, choose the next book, then I'll just pick whatever they pick. I'm not going to like pick my own book and then, you know, not read what a viewer wants to read. So if you are the only other person, which Sandra I think was the only other person who participated in the fiction book club, so you can tell me which book you would prefer, and if it's just you and I, then we will go with what you would like to read. But otherwise, if there's more than one vote, we will just go with the majority. And if there's a 3-way tie, then I will just randomly pick, I'll just have a random generator choose between your guys' picks if there's a 3-way tie or something like that. So that is how we will decide decide the next book. So leave in the comments below before Friday which book you would prefer to read of those 4. Or if you have a suggestion of yours, of your own, then please feel free to throw it in the comments and I'll look it up. And if it sounds like it's a good fit for Halloween, then we'll go with that. So yeah, so that is the fiction book club. So let's move on. So for this week, we were supposed to read the first half of chapter 3. And chapter 3 is the third declaration of war, 1967. So I'm just gonna, this one was talking a bit about how the US policy shifted and how the US really started to just back everything that Israel wants to do, and how they were complicit in deceiving Arab states into getting Israel what it wanted. Like you see a lot of deception that's happening with the ambassador, the United States representatives, and the UN. Like there was a lot of really infuriating things, and that is just politics for you. Like that is just politics, right? That's how the world is, unfortunately. So I'll just go over some things that I highlighted, which I thought were important. So it says, so one of the things that I think was important was this. Okay, so it says, Israel was feeling like it would be annihilated by the Arab states. But it says, on the contrary, its forces were much stronger than the Arab armies in 1967. And the country was never in any danger of losing a war, even if the Arabs had struck first. Yet the myth prevails. In 1967, a tiny, vulnerable country faced constant existential peril, and it continues to do so. This fiction has served to justify blanket support of Israeli policies, no matter how extreme, and despite its repeated rebuttal, even by authoritative Israeli voices. 100% what we are seeing today during the genocide. Israel is facing this existential threat from Palestinians and neighboring Arab nations and Iran, that they're all trying to eliminate Israel, and Israel is just this weak little tiny country that is defending itself, and oh my god, it's so outnumbered, and blah blah blah. Complete utter bullshit. Israel has the complete backing of the United States today. We send billions and billions and billions of dollars to Israel every year, and since the genocide began, we've sent them so much money, so many of our US tax dollars, billions of dollars since just the beginning of this genocide. And again, recently, Biden announced another aid package of several $billion to Israel yet again. So yes, Israel has perpetuated this myth that it's always, facing this existential threat from neighboring Arab nations and Iran, that they're all trying to annihilate Israel, and Israel is this weak little country that needs to fucking protect itself. No, Israel is the fucking aggressor. It is not weak. It is extremely strong. It's just a myth that has been perpetuated since this time. You see a quote about how the Israeli government had begun to divert the waters of the Jordan River to the center of the country, despite great Arab popular distress. So again, I've talked about this many times before. Israel controls the water supply. Israel has shut off the water to the Palestinians in Gaza. They have been without water since the beginning of genocide, and you see their control of the water starting back then. They were controlling water even back then. And I'm like, how much proof do people need to see what is really going on? Like, why are people just so purposefully, willfully blind to the truth? It's because of the dehumanization propaganda has worked on them. That's why. Another thing that I highlighted that I thought was important, so it's talking about the council, the United Nations Council, and it says the council had ordered comprehensive ceasefires on June 6th and 7th, because again, we're talking about the 6-day war now, but Israeli forces entering Syria ignored these resolutions even as their government loudly proclaimed its adherence to them. So here you start to see the UN make resolutions which Israel ignores and ignores and ignores, and what do we see? We see that today. Israel ignores every resolution, it ignores every ruling by the International Court of Justice. It just ignores everything. So you start learning about some of these resolutions. We start learning about Resolution 235, and then we learn about, I believe it was called 242. And it was really infuriating. So as the war is going on, and they're working hard to get a resolution for a ceasefire, Then the American representative, Arthur Goldberg, he asked for a 2-hour adjournment to these, deliberations to try to get a resolution for a ceasefire. And why did this happen? So the Americans could give Israelis a little more time to kill even more people and do whatever they wanted. And that is exactly what we see today. Like, this book is like mirroring everything that is happening today. Like, everything that started back then has continued for over 75 years. For over 75 years, Israel has been this entity that can do whatever the fuck it wants, and no one fucking does anything, and no one fucking cares. It's infuriating. Yeah. So here's another thing. It says, what we had witnessed that day was evidence of a new Middle Eastern axis in action. The armored spearheads on the ground were Israeli, while the diplomatic cover was American. 100% true, still today. It is an axis that is still in place today, over half a century later. Yep. Just incredibly infuriating. Just so infuriating. I was just so disappointed reading about Kennedy and how, if Kennedy had survived, if he was not assassinated, how things might have looked different. Because this chapter talks a lot about how Kennedy was able to see he was able to see the nuances, the things about Palestine and Israel that other American leaders just refused to see, would not acknowledge. So he even visited Palestine. So John F. Kennedy visited Palestine in the early summer of 1939, and he sent his father a letter in which he demonstrated a reasonably good grasp of the facts and a skeptical assessment of the main arguments of both sides in the conflict. This skepticism made Kennedy less susceptible than most American politicians to the pressure applied by Israeli supporters. Israel supporters. I just wish Kennedy had lived, and maybe things could have been different. But he was assassinated. And I think, we know why. So it says, subsequently, then you had Lyndon Johnson, who, of course, supported Israel wholeheartedly, and one of his closest people was Dr. Mathilde Krim, a renowned scientist who had once smuggled weapons and explosives for the revisionist Zionist terror group, the Irgun. Like, here is an American president friends with a terrorist, okay? But are Israelis ever called terrorists? No, it's just the Palestinians, it's just the Arabs, it's just some Muslims. So again, we learned a lot about US policy and how it supports Israel and how it just turns a blind eye to everything Israel does and how it helps actually facilitate Israel's aggressions and its preemptive strike. So, it's the US that gave Israel the green light for its preemptive strike. And there was no threat. As you read this chapter, you learn that there was actually no threat to Israel, but still Israel launched this attack. And then what do we hear today? Like, every time we learn about this preemptive strike and this war, oh, Israel won the war, Israel won the war, blah, 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 blah. Like, Israel fucking started the war. Israel fucking started that war. Like, it was not the Arabs who started it, it was Israel. And then to use their winning as justification for the current occupation of Palestine makes no fucking sense. Like, just make fucking sense. Like, oh, Israel was not fucking defending itself. Israel was the aggressor. Israel started this war. Like, it's just infuriating. I just hate people. I hate dumb people. Yeah, so then, Security Council Resolution 242 allowed for the possibility of enlarged Israeli borders to meet the criterion of security as determined by Israel. So it talks about how the resolution, the wording could be interpreted in such a way for Israel to do whatever the fuck it wants. And then it talks about how if you go by the French translation of the resolution, that no, it would not give Israel to do whatever the right it wanted. It would not give talk about the borders that Israel thinks it had, but because they decide to just ignore the French translation and go by the English translation, Israel just gets to do whatever the fuck it wants. So yeah, Security Council Resolution 242 treated the entire issue as a state-to-state matter between the Arab countries and Israel, eliminating the presence of Palestinians. There's no mention of Palestinians. So again, they are being erased from history. Palestinians are being erased from history. As always, as they've always been. In 1969, Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir stated there were no such things as Palestinians. They did not exist, and they have never existed. Like, yeah, they did exist. Palestinians did exist, but they're trying desperately to erase them from existence. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Yeah, so it just goes more into 242, and it says, along with the expulsion of the Palestinian refugees, the refusal to allow them to return, the theft of their property, and the denial of Palestinian self-determination, these included the legal status of Jerusalem and Israel's expansion beyond the 1947 partition frontiers. As for the core problems arising from the original usurpation of Palestine, SC 242 did not even refer to them, much less offer any solutions. Yet the resolution henceforth became the benchmark for resolving the entire conflict, nominally accepted by all parties, even as it passed over the basic aspects of the conflict in silence. Like, here is a people, the Palestinians, who were colonized, and everyone is just ignoring them. Everyone is just ignoring them. They're like, don't have a voice. They're just being erased from history. Like, can you imagine how infuriating that would be if you were Palestinian? Can you just imagine what it is like to be a Palestinian whose existence is continuously being erased by people, and you're not even given a word into your own, you're not even given a word, you're not allowed to say a word about what happens to you. Like, it's just incredibly infuriating. So it talks about, how these Palestinian resistance groups started coming. Oh, before that, there was like a mention of Henry Kissinger, and it says, so he said, speaking of another Middle Eastern crisis, the end result would be exactly what we have worked all these years to avoid. It would create Arab unity. Like, this is what we have seen since the beginning. The United States going to other parts of the world, doing whatever it wants for its own benefit, not caring about other people and those, like, for example, the Arabs, being fooled by America, making all these deals for their oil with America, like this is what colonization is. This is what America does. This is what European countries do. Like, and yeah, these Arab leaders were fucking stupid to allow it. And these Arab leaders were fucking stupid to not unite against America and Great Britain at this time and allow them to just be walked all over and do whatever the fuck they want. And again, just for the record, I absolutely fucking hate Saudi Arabia. Like, I hate them. I hate their government. I hate they're just stupid. And yeah, like, and to this day, they only care about themselves. Like, there will never be Arab unity. There will never be Arab unity. Like, it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So then you see the emergence of these resistance groups, and it talks about this one author whose book I did read. So Ghassan Kanafani. So I read his works when I was in graduate school. But it mentions some other works that I actually have not read. So I did read Men in the Sun, and I read some of his shorter stories, and he was assassinated. So he was assassinated in a car bombing by Mossad together with his 17-year-old niece. And yeah, that's just heartbreaking. So why was he assassinated? Because his writings were giving, people a sense of their identity. Like, he was writing about the Palestinian identity. He was writing about, it was giving people hope. It was giving people hope to unite, to stand up for their cause when all these other Arab nations failed them. So Ghassan Kanafani, as a writer, was a threat to Israel. So he was assassinated by Mossad. Yeah. So it just talks a little bit more about that, and it talks about Fatah and like the emergence of like the Palestinian Liberation Organization. You learn about Yasser Arafat and so on. So it's just more of the same. It's more of what we see today, but it's really good to learn about the history. And I hope those of you who are reading this book are starting to learn more and more about what really happened, what really went down, and to not be fooled by Zionist propaganda, to not be fooled by dehumanization of Palestinians. I hope that you are learning a lot about how these people have been treated, how unjust all of this was. I hope that you are seeing all of that. You know, one thing I came across recently was like showed a picture of like, you know, it was a drawing of people sleeping soundly in their homes. And then there was a drawing of people who were like, you know, being bombed as they slept. And it said that the only difference between you and them was the lottery of your birth. Like, you did not do anything to deserve sleeping in a home at night peacefully with a roof over your head. Like, it was just the lottery of your birth. Like, you could have very easily been that Palestinian. You could have very easily been born as that Palestinian. Like, you know, I know that this goes a lot into religion and maybe like stuff that we don't fully understand or have control of. Like, you know, I do wonder how atheists view birth and souls, and, you know, how it's determined which families we're born into and stuff like that. I would really love to know like an atheist perspective on that. Like, you know, that's a lot more than my mind can comprehend, like existence, like our existence. You know, it's just a lot to comprehend for people like us, or anyone, I think. As I think there's like a lot of unsolved mysteries in this world, and that's going to be one of them. So yeah, so it just made me think a lot about how lucky we are to have been born as we were. Whereas, unfortunately, for the Palestinians, they are not lucky. Unfortunately, for the people of Congo, they are not lucky. Unfortunately, for wherever there are atrocities and genocides happening right now, the Rohingya, they are not lucky. The Uyghurs, they are not lucky. Like, you know, it's just a matter of luck, I think. So yeah, so it's sad. So I guess that's all I'll say. You know, I could say the same thing I say every week about people in this industry. It's just, I know, I'm getting tired of saying it. I've just noticed a complete, you know, people just don't even care that I'm calling them out, because what are they gonna do? There's no like rebuttal. There's no rebuttal that they could say that would actually make them look good in the end. So I can call them out all I want, and I can talk about what hypocrites and shills and Zionist shills they are, and they're never going to respond, because there's nothing to justify their silence. There's absolutely nothing to justify their silence. I still see Suzanne Sheldon posting about all these other issues that, you know, apparently she cares about, yet complete silence on the genocide. And as I posted screenshots in my last video, you can see that no, she just doesn't care. No one cares. Like, literally no one cares about the Palestinians. And they should care. Like, you know, we saw that as Kamala Harris. Why do I always call her Harris? Like, I think because I'm always talking about like Arabs, and in Arabic her name would be pronounced Harris rather than Harris. So yeah, but Kamala Harris, when she was at a campaign rally, there were pro-Palestinian disruptors who disrupted her campaign, and they're basically asking for a ceasefire. And she said something along the lines of, I mean, she didn't use the exact word "shut up," but she should have, basically, because she was saying basically the same thing. She basically told them to be quiet and not speak up unless they want Trump to win. Here are people who you need to vote for you, who you want to vote for you, and you are telling them to shut up. Like, who do these people actually represent? Who do these politicians actually represent? Why are we electing people who just do not give a fuck about what we want, do not give a fuck about the things that are important to us? Like, billions and billions and billions of our tax dollars are going to Israel to fund their military, to fund the genocide, to fund their healthcare, to fund their education, to fund their living. Well, we have countless homeless people in America. We have countless people in America without healthcare. We have countless people in America like myself with a shit ton of student debt. You know, there is just so much more that money could be doing for good for us in America, yet it's being used to fund a fucking genocide. And Kamala is basically just telling everyone to shut the fuck up unless you want Trump to win. Well, I'm not fucking voting for Kamala, and I wish that every liberal in this country would vote for Jill Stein and just stick it to the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is failing liberals. Like, I just think it's failing liberals. And I know that it's only the liberals who are really concerned about this genocide that are not going to vote for Kamala, but I'm just really, really just sick of everything. I'm just so fucking tired. I'm just tired. And if I'm tired, like, I feel like it's just very selfish of me to even say that. I feel like it's just selfish of me to talk about how tired and exhausted I am when I'm not living the genocide. I'm not living through it. I get to sleep peacefully in my house. I get to eat 3 meals a day if I want to. I get to enjoy my life. I get to play board games. I get to do all this stuff that Palestinians cannot do because they are just trying to survive. They are trying to not have their flesh and bones completely melted by Israel. They are trying to survive. They are trying to find water to drink. They are trying to find food to eat. Like, they are trying to find somewhere safe to sleep, but there is nowhere safe to sleep because Israel is just bombing the shit out of everything in Gaza. It's just completely bombing everything. There is nowhere left to go. There's just nowhere left to go. And as we're seeing from this book, like, the Arab countries just do not give a shit, and they have failed Palestine since the beginning. The Arab countries failed Palestine. And yeah, it's just so infuriating and exhausting, but I hope that you are reading this book and getting educated, and that it will cause you to educate your friends and family. And so that's how knowledge spreads. That's how the word spreads. And I hope that we can help make a difference by educating our loved ones as well. So please do. So please share what you're reading and learning with your loved ones and educate people and try to get them to read the book as well. All right, that is my, discussion for this week. So for next week, please read the rest of chapter 3. So finish off chapter 3 for next week, and let's move on. So this week's question of the week is inspired by Gnome Hollow. I want to know what your favorite Carcassonne-like game is. A game in which you're placing tiles, connecting roads or paths or whatever. Tell me what your favorite Carcassonne-like game is, because Gnome Hollow does have similarities to Carcassonne in that respect. So that is your question of the week, or there's a bonus question. What is your favorite mushroom-themed game? Because mushrooms feature heavily in Gnome Hollow. There were a crap ton of mushroom-themed games on Kickstarter like last year, and I backed a number of them, and I should be getting a couple of them within the next few months, I think. So let me know what your favorite mushroom-themed game is as well. And there will be a video next week, but then the weekend after there won't, but I'll remind you guys of that next week. So until then, bye.